Well, let's go forward. Good afternoon also from my side. Happy to be here with you. My name is Serge. I'm most of the time I'm working as head of partner management for Trimble, also known as Transparent. Today I'm here on behalf of Alice, TG4 as vice chair. But maybe it's also worth mentioning that I'm also working for Europe's Rail Joint Undertaking as expert evaluator. I will come to that point at the end of my intervention. So now I'm really excited to take you all through a number of fairy tales from the intermodal transport now. So just lean back, relax, and enjoy the next minutes if you can. Um, My intervention consists out of total 7 steps, and I'm not going to read them to you, but I will, just to be clear, I'm only focusing on the highlights of the survey Fernando already referred to before. So a survey we have done recently. I'll come to more details now. Um, but I would also like to reserve a few minutes for questions and answers from your end at the end of my presentation. However, before I shall unmask 4 intermodal legends to be fairy tales only, let me go back 30 months into the past. In January 2024, Alice has issued a white paper. I shorten the title a little bit, otherwise my whole intervention is over before I'm through, which was on increasing the share of intermodal transport. That was already based on a survey, and I would like to bring back the 4 main findings from that report and from that white paper. The number one finding was, and forgive me, Paula, if I say so, but there is no such thing like modal shift. This is just a fantasy thing. When I joined logistics, which is 3 decades ago. Okay. Sorry, there was some noise. When I joined logistics 3 decades ago, my first project in logistics was on intermodal transport. This is why I got hooked with it. But if I compare where intermodal transport stood 30 years back in time and where it stands today, well, it increased volumes, but it didn't increase market share. So against all efforts, against of millions, at that time it was Marco Polo projects. Now it's called differently. The real outcome isn't there. And I don't say that to criticize intermodal transport. I'm actually a big fan of intermodal transport, but we have to rethink what went wrong. But let me go on with my presentation. The second main finding from last year's white paper was that there is a huge difference in the perception. While the rail sector said, well, we are more or less equally competitive with road transport, the customers of the system, the shippers.
Again, sorry to interrupt you. We are still in the first slide. I don't know if you want us to move to the other slides
Oh,
or.
sorry, my mistake. My mistake. Apologize. Please jump two slides forward. I forgot to mention that. I was so excited. Sorry.
Sorry
Yeah.
for. Sorry
No,
for.
no, no. You're totally right. Totally right. You could have interrupted me earlier. So yeah, that is the slide which underpins what I'm saying at the moment. And you can visualize now this huge difference in the perception between what the rail sector thinks about its own performance compared to road freight and what the shippers tell. That's massive. This is like day and night. And we have to take that very serious if we want to advance. Then we went back to the shippers and asked them, what's your number one showstopper for doing more intermodal transport? And we got a couple of answers, but the one which was most significant was that there is a There are a lot of tools available for this and that in intermodal transport, but in general, these are all island solutions, and there is a complete lack of integration with other supply chain solutions. So for us as a shipper, to shift shipments from one mode to the other is made as difficult as possible. And finally, in summary, we found that this combination of the complexity of intermodal transport, and it's not only perceived, it is there, combined with the lack of transparency of the system, this is a toxic combination because road freight is not so much more transparent, but it's not as complex. So it's not perceived as so tricky. But let me go on with my presentation on and move towards this year's undertaking. So we started the survey, which is the background. Now you are one slide advanced, but that's okay. Uh, we started with our survey last year, and our plan was to take up the findings from our first report and dive deeper into the wonder world of intermodal transport, in particular with a focus on transit time and on-time performance. And now that's the good slide to show what we figured out. And and as I said, I will focus on four fairy tales which we have identified. And the first one is the fairy tale of transit time. Intermodal transport must always be slower. That's what most people tell, and shippers in particular. 70% of the shippers think so. It must always be slower. However, it's just not true. And 60% of all respondents confirm that this is a fairy tale. And you can say, well, it's also a question of a point of view. But the forwarders, the logistic service providers, they know best. And 40% of the logistic service providers confirm that intermodal transport can be even faster. If someone needs a use case where it is definitely faster, we can take that at the end of my presentation. Let me move forward to the second fairy tale we have identified, which means please now change to the next slide. Yes, this fairy tale is on the on-time failure. Well, a shipment is late. That happens here and there. But in intermodal transport, any bad on-time performance in intermodal transport comes from the rail lag. That's what we hear. Is this just one more lie? Let's listen to what the so-called middlemen say. Again, the forwarders, which are sitting in between and probably have a pretty good understanding of root causes. Uh, 1/3 of the logistics service providers, listen carefully, confirm that the on-time performance at the terminal is superior to the one at the destination. And more than that, 43% of all forwarders, logistics service providers, say that bad or intentional last mile fleet planning is a frequent cause of delays. Let's reflect on that. I think it doesn't deserve any further comment, and move on to the next slide, which shows us the fourth fairy tale we have identified. And this is on who is responsible for this mess, if there is a mess. So who is causing the delays? Rail infrastructure. This is pretty much the general and default answer we get when asking whomsoever. But apart from this standard reply, every supply chain actor uses to point at others. For example, for the rail sector, trucking is on top of the list of root causes for late arrivals. While for the logistics service provider, it's the intermodal operator who does bad. Or the bad road traffic. as if the logistics service provider couldn't plan with the actual traffic as is. I think we can all agree that there will be no progress in any ecosystem, and intermodal transport is not the only one, if no actor assumes responsibility, but rather points at the others instead of improving his own performance. And again, all this is based on a lack of transparency, which allows every actor to live on an island, as you see. Everyone has a different picture. Let me move on to the fifth fairy tale. The fifth fairy tale, however, comes in several portions. It's all about expectations. And I'm talking about expectations on the on-time performance of the shipments. Be careful, this has several chapters. The first chapter refers on all transport modes, so all kind of shipments in general. And that story goes on the on-time expectations in the industry. Chapter 1 of this drama is that 84% of all shippers, but only 28% of all forwarders support a 90% on-time performance or even better, with the rail sector's expectations being just in the middle of those two extremes. Can you picture that? We can say, well, all transports, someone thinks on that one, on that mode, someone else thinks on other modes. Let's move on and go into the details. Next slide, please. Yeah. Oh, sorry, I was behind one slide. One more slide. And then I was gone. That's not nice. Something went wrong, sorry. Can you give me a second? My second screen lost its energy, so I cannot see anything at the moment, or almost not anything. Or it died away. Interesting. I try to fix that later. Sorry for the interruption. Give me a second to reorganize, if I can, with one screen. So sorry. So we at least we are already on the same page. The second chapter of these misaligned expectations is on rail and intermodal transport. The shipper expectations on the on-time performance on intermodal transport and rail couldn't drop more. You remember before they were at 84% confirming a 90% on-time performance, or even better. Now they dropped to 7% if you look at rail and intermodal transport. Even the logistics service providers have much higher expectations than the shippers. Namely, 43% of them expect a 90% on time or better for rail and intermodal transport. You can argue, well, again, all the actors in the supply chain are not on the same page, because the rail sector itself assumes a 21% supporting 90% on-time performance, which is not as low as the shippers, but much less than the logistics service provider. Let's move on to the next slide, please. So that is now the next chapter, which is road freight. To be complete, we have, of course, also asked on the on-term performance expectations on road freight. And there is again remarkable gap of 86% of shippers expecting 90% on-time performance or better, but only 41% of logistics service providers are supporting that. You remember, this is pretty much the same percentage as expect on-time 90% on-time performance on the forwarder side for rail and intermodal transport. So this underpins that the forwarder has a much better picture and much higher expectation compared to the shipper. Let's move on to the next slide. The last chapter on these misaligned expectations, that's my conclusion. It's a matter of fact that every group of supply chain actors seems to live on a completely different island than its partners in the supply chain. And yes, obviously, for intermodal transport, the low expectations from the shipper side seem to be super attractive. Easy to match. But come on, we have to understand very clearly that these low expectations, you remember, 7% of the shippers expected a 90% on-time performance of rail only or for an intermodal transport. This low expectation backfires twice. Due to the excessively low on-time performance expectations, many shippers just do avoid intermodal transport. And as we understand, because of the judgment of the forwarders, for no good reason, just because their expectations are so drastically low. Let's move on to my next slide, please. Coming to my conclusion. So what we've been proving with those few highlights from our report, which is of course much more extensive and contains more information, what we've been proving is that intermodal transport is an island business. And I don't mean ferries or short sea transport by that expression, as you can imagine. The backbone of this isolation is the lack of common, standardized, and transparent data. My personal takeaway is that the rail sector is more afraid of its direct competition from other railway undertakings and intermodal operators than for the price of losing against road freight. If rail wants to survive, it must make an end to this old school mindset and understand that they have a common competition against road transport. If the mindset won't change, the high expectations the industry has on things like automated coupling will just go down the bin. Let's move on to the next slide, please. Coming to the end of my intervention, my call for action is focused on 4 pillars. Number 1, invest into transparency, first of all, and extend it to the shippers. Number 2, connect and integrate with visibility services, with other actors, with dedicated platforms, and with shippers. Number 3, share real-time and real transit time, in particular by corridor, to gain trust and provide the shippers with the foundation for better decision making. And last but not least, number 4, and actually from my point of view, most importantly, change the mindset and start real collaboration now. On my side, I explicitly referred to the DAC, the digital automatic coupling, for good reason. Allow me, I had the pleasure to work on a couple of Horizon Europe projects, granting a total of 100 million euros a few weeks ago, very few weeks ago. And the European Commission, DG Move included, as well as the industry, assumes that digital automated coupling will be a game changer. I dare to counter that. So coming back to all the proposals I was reviewing together with other evaluators, they all addressed data sharing, but none of them included the cargo owner, also known as shipper, into the data sharing approach. All this data sharing ends at the terminal, as I used to say, and the system makes it unreasonable difficult for the cargo owner to have access to that data. Whether we talk about DXI, or also called as DX, or other efforts to promote data sharing. So now let's move to the last slide, which is just the goodbye slide from my end. I do hope that you found these findings interesting, and they will promote the discussion which is needed from my point of view. Thank you for listening. Now open for questions or comments.
Eric has a question. Eric, if you can open your mic, maybe it's easier.
I'm turning also the camera. So Serge, yeah, bonjour. So thanks a lot for the intermodal survey. I tried several days ago to contact you, I think, to understand in which direction we are going. Okay, there are some surprise indeed in the survey, but I would like to tell maybe the story that we have in our project Bridge. So Bridge is a project about door-to-door data sharing. And for the moment where we are struggling is with the shippers. So we are asking the shippers to have an interview with us. And believe me, Serge, it's very difficult. So I put the question, did you have the shippers if they are ready to share data with us? Because it's always the same. It should be bilaterally. We have the same issue with the LSP. So it's very good to hear that you need the data from us. We are willing to do so, but we need also data from you in order to be more, I think, productive and efficient. And that's a question that I have now in the last really months, that we have issues, I think, to contact shippers that might be interested to have just an interview with us to understand your requirements, because at the end you can be not satisfied with intermodal, but we need to understand that what does it mean in terms of operation, in terms of data, because our aim is to somehow develop what we call minimum set of viable data for a door-to-door intermodal chain. But we see that the requirements can be quite different between the shippers, depending on the size of the company, depending on the types of goods and the commodities. So here we have to be careful to say that it's very easy to find one solution that fits for all. Yeah. So that's just my remark. Now I have also a second question. Is there a report then available then to the community, I think, because here's just slides, but then soon, and you are certainly then going to publish then the final report. Yeah.
Maybe for courtesy reasons, I let Pablo answer the second question, and then I will jump myself back to the first question.
It will be next week. We will publish in the Alice website at the beginning, I hope, because we are doing the small last changes and updates to it.
And now let me answer your two questions, two-folded, Eric. First, you are completely right. As I used to say, and that is valid for the entire logistics industry, everybody is happy with data sharing as long as he is not asked to share his own data. This is generally so. This is an aspect where you're completely right. However, other transport modes have advanced. And long story cut short, Eric, I'm more than pleased, because I'm, of course, not representing a shipper myself, but I'm talking a lot to shippers. And I'm more than pleased to bring you in touch with shippers who would very much like to contribute to the questions you have been raised. So yeah, let's connect outside this webinar and go through a list of possible candidates, and you can then choose from the menu, so to speak. Is that good?
I like to eat, so thanks for the menu.
You're welcome. De rien. Further questions, please.
Fernando.
Or interventions.
Yeah, I think your intervention on the DAC, it was not from the participation, but from the evaluation point of view, right?
Yes, absolutely. No. several of these proposals were of course built on the multi-annual work package and so on and so forth. I'm not repeating all this great foundation, including flagship projects. But that was really funny. Everyone had data sharing as part of the proposal, but it ended too soon.
And Sergey, here it's very clear we can do the comparison. While the road transport partnerships have always relied on logistics service providers and shippers are their business ecosystem and partners, and we can see in the project's large-scale demonstrations really putting them in the front end for their needs. We see this is not happening in rail, and we are like neglected. And I think what Eric mentioned is very clear. If in those projects you don't get the right stakeholders, meaning the shippers or the LSPs, for what reason? If they are so important that you need the data, if they are so important you need them for the solution, why they are not part of the project? It's very inconsistent. For me, it's very inconsistent that you require somebody to get the party going and you don't invite to the party.
Yes, and to be completely frank with you, I'm not sure why the situation turned out like this for Eric and his colleagues, because I'm not struggling with that point, but maybe let me give you an analogy. My wife got a couple of parcels earlier today, and I had full transparency which parcels would come at which point of time. But I wasn't asked to share other data from my end than my home address where the delivery should take place. And I must say, it's not exactly the same thing, but what do I want to say with that? And yes, Eric, I support your view that also the shipper should share data back to the system and not only consume the data. But to be completely transparent, to which extent does it help us to react a bit spastic on shippers not sharing data back to that extent from the very beginning? It doesn't really help a lot. And it's a fair point that I want to conduct data sharing on eye level. I am supporting that. But we as an intermodal system, if I may call us like that, we don't do ourselves any good if we are waiting for the eye level only. We can make one step forward before the shipper comes back to us. But that's just a side comment. Yeah, I think that's enough from my side on that subject. If there is anything else you want to share, ask, or discuss, happy to hear. And Eric, I ignored that your hand is up. Sorry.
Just to reply to Fernando's message, for the bridge project, we ask maybe 10 to 15 different shippers to be engaged in bridge, and they all refused. So that's the problem. It's not easy to convince shippers to join this kind of project. So that's now
simple. You didn't give the value proposition for the shippers. You need to find a way for a value proposition they will join. When we have approached the shippers for the road transport projects, probably they may have joined or not joined, but they have made sure their operators have joined. It's a matter of the value proposition. And I want to thank for the effort. And I think Bridge is a great project. It's not linked to Europe's rate, it's CEF. So then it's trying to find the spot to do the right thing. So then this is very good for you. But actually also asking shippers to pay for a solution that it's going to help not only them, but their competitors, it's very hard. Because at the end, you need to find the rationale why they are not interested in a SEF project. Because the solution you are going to develop is not going to give any priority. Why a shipper needs to develop and pay for something that it's going to increase the competitiveness of the competitor? It's not making sense. So then it's looking into the instrument, it's looking into the value proposition. And I understand you trying and then saying no, but we need to find to understand the root cause of that. It's basically the instrument is not appropriate for that type of collaboration. Then we can discuss more offline on this, because this is clearly what we see happening, and only a few those that are really investing in even knowing this will not only benefit them but many others. It's hard to find those brave.
If I may interrupt, I'm afraid that Paula's hand is already feeling very heavy because she has it already for a while in the air.
Thank you. Sure.
Paula.
A quick question, actually. Thank you. Very interesting to learn about the misalignment of expectations. And I see that you're also part of the Europe's Rail JU. So is there any action within the JU to manage these expectations? No?
I have to
okay, that's not a very good answer.
No, yeah, but it's the truth. Sorry, and I'm more after the truth than after courtesy, if you allow me. But Europe's Rail Joint Undertaking is completely focused on every technical aspect, but mindset and mentality are not in the picture for them. They are super excited about digital automatic coupling. They think it will turn the world upside down. And I agree, it brings additional opportunities to the table. But I very much doubt that with the current way of dealing with collaboration and interaction, this will take place, if I may say so. But one thought back to Eric. Sorry, I just forgot that. Eric, did you also talk to those shippers who are active in LS Express? That would be a low-hanging fruit. This could be a nice idea. My finding is, isn't that great to have a webinar like this where people do not only get opinions, but also can make new contacts and new ideas. So LS Express would be my first stop point. But as I offered before, if beyond LS Express, you would need additional contributors. Yes, Adrien, very nice to have your thumbs up. Of course, that I'm still available for you to back LS Express up if needed.
Thanks a lot, Serge. I just want to react. So thanks, I think, for your proposal. Thanks, Fernando, to liaise already with one of your member. But that's exactly why I'm here today, just to express our also needs. And if we can work and cooperate, that's really the message also today for you. Indeed, we know CEF-funded project is not the best tool, but that was not easy to integrate intermodal aspects into Horizon Europe. That's also then the message to DG Move, and we are grateful that we have now a call on multimodal resilience and competitiveness. UIR will be part of that, some of the operators as well. But indeed, we need to promote a bit more intermodal in the Horizon environment, because for the moment, intermodality is not really key. Yeah? So that's to be clear. We are speaking indeed about or mentioning DAC. So that's more for the operation, can be for capacity reason on the railway sector. But indeed, to improve something with our customers, you can forget it. It's nothing to do with now external environment. It's really for internal intra operation efficiency that might be a solution. But still, for intermodal, it's still a question mark. For conventional, it's quite clear. It's really positive. For intermodal, we are still struggling if this is something good or not. Yeah. And now I will make silence.
That's fine.
I cannot.
That's what I promise all the time myself, so I know the problem, and then I don't keep my promise. And Paula,
Okay.
sorry, I need to get rid of this one. Sorry, Pablo, to interrupt you. If you wonder why I appear to have so low expectations from the digital automated coupling, I can explain on a very simple example. If I'm not completely mistaken, and Eric can probably confirm that, then from 36 European infrastructure managers, only 6 are connected to the European Joint Capacity Planning. And if that is still so, which is the last information I have, how can we believe that digital automatic coupling will be the game changer? The problem is in the mindset. But I'm now finished, and now I will be silent, Eric and Fernando and Paula.